Okay, I'm live. Good morning. I certainly hope I'm in the right group. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to hop on. We've got one viewer. Okay, awesome. I just wanted somebody to join me. Good morning. Okay, so here I am, barefaced. I'm gonna hit the gym after this, go pump some weights, get some cardio going. But so you get to see my morning glory. This is my bare face. All right, you guys, my name is Lily Ledbetter, and how are you guys doing with the shed? Yes, please comment, tell me where you're tuning in from, and how's it going? How's the shed going for you? We just kicked off phase 3 yesterday. This stage is so awesome because it's not just about what you're putting in your mouth, right? It's not just about the nutritional component. Health and wellness is more than what you eat. It's also what you're applying to your food, what you're inhaling, what you're cooking your foods in, all the different things. Okay, so we're gonna get into some of that today. And so just welcome. Good morning. Hey, Kat, thanks for joining me. Good morning, Colette. All right. So I have to give you a little bit of backstory. Today's topic is actually about the risks of synthetic fragrances, which Colette actually knows a lot about. She's been suffering as a result of purchasing the wrong laundry detergent. Not her fault. Her husband bought it. He wasn't trying to kill her, but it was an accident. She's been suffering. Okay, so let me get started. When I was in my 20s, when I was, my younger version of myself, I'm 41 now. When I was younger, I just purchased cheap stuff. Like, that's probably the easiest way of saying it. I bought, the cheapest cosmetics. As long as I thought that they were working for me, all I cared about was saving money. I didn't understand that what you wouldn't put in your mouth, you shouldn't put on your skin. I didn't know any of that, right? I didn't know about, pay the farmer now or pay the doctor later, which is very true, and you need to make note of that. Okay, what you're spending your money on right now in food, in what you apply to your body, all those things, it's going to affect your health either positively or negatively. Okay, so you're gonna give somebody your money. You're either gonna pay the doctor, you're gonna pay the farmer now for the good stuff, or you're gonna pay the doctor later for all of the health issues and stuff. And they don't have to be like big health issues. They could be minor nuances. But for some people, it is major health issues. Okay, so again, in my early 20s, my younger self, I could care less. I just wanted the cheap stuff, whatever was the cheapest, as long as I thought it worked, right? And also, I just trusted. I trusted the pretty labels, right? I trusted that if, I don't have anything in front of me right now, but let's just say this is a bottle of lotion. If it had pretty leaves in front of it, if it said it's all natural, it's whatever, I trusted that. I believed them. I didn't understand ingredients. I couldn't have, you turn those bottles around and you can't pronounce like 90% of what they're saying. So I had no idea. I just trusted that these were fantastic. And I love how those companies will also tell you, they'll highlight at the top of the label like shea butter, coconut oil, right? They'll tell you like the good stuff. But when you really dig deep and start reading the label, you're like, there's shea butter and coconut oil somewhere in the mix of 100 other toxic ingredients, right? Other things that I was doing at that time, okay, buying the cheap stuff, didn't know anything about anything. And I was following the fads, whatever the fad was, right? So there's a reason I'm telling you all of this, by the way, so I'll get to it. But the Atkins fad, the all things soy and vegan fad, the all whatever. Don't even get me started with soy, okay? Don't even get me started. All right, so I did all the stuff. I followed the fads. I bought the cheapest stuff. Wasn't concerned at all until I was diagnosed with an incurable disease that causes infertility. My husband and I went through years and years and years. When I say years, I'm talking years of infertility. And it wasn't until year 5 of year 7, because we went through nearly 7.5 years of infertility. It wasn't until year 5 when I ended up in the hospital having emergency surgery for what was thought to be a tubal pregnancy that actually turned out to be stage 3/stage 4 endometriosis, which is an incurable disease. They don't know what causes it. They also don't have a cure for it. And when it's being graded at such a high level, it ends up with a hysterectomy. At this point, the disease has caused tremendous damage to the body, tremendous damage to the reproductive system, tubes, ovaries, all the different things. And that was my wake-up call. When I was told that I had this disease that causes infertility, and it was it's funny that they've graded it stage 3/stage 4, and it's because parts of my body were stage 3 level and parts of my body were stage 4 level. And at this point, the diagnosis is it's going to be impossible for you to conceive naturally at this stage of the game because everything is so severely damaged. Whereas like stage 1, stage 2, you can still successfully conceive, though it takes a little bit longer. But so that was my wake-up call. Finding out that, hey, you have this disease that causes infertility and your chances of conceiving naturally, I'm speaking the doctor's words now, are going to be practically impossible. But God. So let me just say that I'm a woman of faith, okay? So I'll start with that. I don't know where you're at in your journey, on your spiritual journey, but I'm a woman of faith, lover of Jesus. And so I have to insert a part of the story that is super, super critical. Years before I found out that I was medically barren, before I was diagnosed with this disease, so my husband and I, we got married really young, right out of college, 23 years old. We waited to start having babies. We thought, oh, everybody gets pregnant because everybody around us gets pregnant, right? Literally, my friends were popping out babies like rabbits, like nobody's business. They would even plan when they wanted to have a baby. Oh, I want to have an April baby, so I'm going to get pregnant in, whatever month. I'm like, you can do that? They're like, oh yeah, you just use the ovulation kit and you get pregnant when you want to. Well, that wasn't the case for us, okay? So we waited for years thinking it's going to be easy peasy. Well, guess what? It wasn't, okay? It wasn't until 7 years, 5 months, 10 hours, 15 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. But nearly 7.5 years later is when we finally conceived the promised child. But prior to that, before I knew the damage I'd done to my body, before I knew about this medical condition that was actually hindering my ability to have a child, the Lord was so faithful. He sent a random stranger, never met this guy, mind you, that walked up to my husband at a worship service at Christ for the Nations here in Dallas, walked up to my husband and he said, the Lord is going to open up your wife's womb. He's going to give you a son and you are to name him Nathan. Very specific. Okay, I can't leave this out of the story. It's impossible. This is the story of my son, okay? Many, many more confirming words came after that, all of that. But that was the very first word. Before I knew that I was medically barren, the Lord had spoken this into my life, right? My husband, I wasn't actually there with him. So he comes home, he tells me this. This was my response. Who is this guy? And I don't like the name Nathan. That was my response. And in my head, I was like, God said? I had yet to read the scripture that says that when Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice. Anyways, that was the beginning of the story. So the Lord had already spoken over me. He had already prophesied over my womb that it would be open and I was to have a son and I was to name him Nathan. Funny enough, Nathan was not on my list of baby names, okay? So found out 7.5 years later, right, that Nathan in the Hebrew actually means given by God. So it's an incredible story. There's a lot more to it. Amazing, amazing story. So much that I learned during that part of the journey. But in 2012, so we started trying whenever that was, I don't even know, 2007, I think it was. So by 2012, I ended up having emergency surgery. I ended up being given this diagnosis. I ended up miscarrying that day. Doctor believes that I miscarried on the operating table. All that kind of happened. He had gone in thinking he was going to perform surgery to end the tubal pregnancy because that's what he, and the second opinion, we had another doctor who did like a 4D sonogram. And so amongst the two of them, they saw excessive bleeding. They saw massive, like this mass in my tube. So they just thought it was a tubal pregnancy. And at this point I was about to rupture. So that's why I ended up in the emergency room. He told my husband, I'll be back in 45 minutes. 2.5 hours later, he came back and said, I have no idea how your wife conceived. This is a miracle. Like, it's impossible. Under the condition of her body, this is a miracle. Like, I have no idea how she could have possibly conceived. Mind you, my doctor is like one of the pioneers in laparoscopic surgery. And he is the head over the entire OBGYN department, head over all of the interns at Baylor Hospital University here in Dallas. And for him to say that is a big deal, right? So anyway, let me get back to synthetic fragrances and all of that. That moment was my wake-up call. And at that point, this was my third miscarriage, but this was the one that landed me in the emergency room. And this was the one that actually finally gave me answers as to why we were having so much trouble conceiving. Prior to that, I'd been to other doctors. I kept getting misdiagnosed. They just kept missing the problem. And I had this feeling, you know, as I began to do research, because by the time you've been trying for a year, you kind of start wondering what's up. By the time you get to year 2, you're like, okay, something's wrong, because my friends are popping out babies like nobody's business, right? So I started to research things, and I really began to sense that there was something wrong, that I could potentially have endometriosis based on heavy cycles, super, super heavy, from the time that I was really young. You know, severe pain, insomnia, all the, hot flashes, you know, all the different things. I was the poster board child for all the symptoms, but I just thought that was normal. I had no idea. Okay, so this was my wake-up call, being told, here's the issue, your chances are pretty much impossible, kind of a thing, right? So I knew what the Lord had spoken over me, but at this point I realized I needed to partner. Right, I needed to partner with him. So my thought process at this point was, okay, I understand that you're gonna do this thing, but what's my responsibility in stewarding my body? How do I prepare a safe place for conception and full-term pregnancy to happen? Because it's been incredibly challenging to conceive, and when we have conceived, we've lost these babies. So what is my portion, right? And I dove into researching holistic medicine. Gosh, I had hundreds of like holistic magazines on herbs and all the things, essential oils, so on and so forth. I started down the path of like food and learning what foods were affecting my body, what was adding more fuel to the fire, what was feeding that disease. But I went from the food to other things, because it's not just what we eat, it's also what are we applying to our bodies, right? And I'll get into that, you guys, but our skin is not wallpaper, and I realized that's how we treat it. That's how I treated it. I was so ignorant, not realizing that what I was applying and spraying to my body was ultimately going into my bloodstream, into my lymphatic system. So it was affecting everything inside my body, affecting my overall, you know, health. So let's see, where was I? I wrote a few notes so I wouldn't, so I could stay on track. So it started with researching food, but then it ended up being, okay, how are the things that I'm putting on my body affecting me? It went further than that. What are the things that I'm inhaling, that I'm smelling, like toxic candles? I chunked all that stuff in the trash. And what am I cooking in? What am I storing my foods in? Like, this goes so much deeper. There's so many like phytoestrogens and I could use a lot of different words, but basically all these toxins hidden in all of our Tupperwares, our cooking supplies, like all the things. All that to say that when I was told you have an incurable disease that causes infertility and your chances of conceiving naturally are pretty much impossible, that was my wake-up call and my call to action to clean up my act. I was not going to be okay with not being able to have a child. I'm like, nope, this is where I start cleaning up my act. This is where I start cleaning up how I eat, how I start taking care of my skin and all the other things, okay? So I've done a tremendous amount of research. So I just want you to know that. I speak from personal experience, years and years of research and all of this. So I want to tell you some of the risks of synthetic fragrances. And first of all, when you look at your lotions or you look at your cosmetics or your hair products, because these things are hidden in your laundry detergent, your toiletries, you know, all the body sprays, all the different things that you use, you guys, they're hidden as parfum or perfume, as fragrance, as various different words actually, but those are the most common words. And do you know that these companies are not required to tell you what that little word entails? They're not required to tell you what they put in that container. They don't have to tell you that. They can just simply give you the word fragrance, and you have no idea that that is a code word for about 100 different toxic chemicals that are going to affect the what is it called? The endocrine system, right? Your endocrine system is where your hormones are regulated. Well, how many of you know that your hormones are a big key in conception, a big key in, getting pregnant, sustaining a pregnancy? I mean, that was important for me to know, right? And these are hormone disruptors. These cause, quite frankly, these are also asthma triggers, allergen triggers. They're carcinogens. It's insane. Neurotoxins, like what? It's insane. And these companies do not have to tell you that what they've put inside of those bottles. So just know that if you see the word fragrance or parfum or perfume, even if you see natural fragrance, these companies self-regulate. They do not have to tell you what they have put in that one little word. Okay, they're just feeding your skin loads of toxins that are going into your system, into your blood system, into your lymphatic system. And I cannot tell you, as I was doing this research, as I was learning about the things that I had been feeding my body, applying on my body, all the various different factors, the tremendous amount of guilt that I began to feel. I felt so ashamed. I don't want to get emotional. I just wanted to be a mom, and I had no idea. I was so ignorant. I did not know the amount of damage that I had done to my body. I had been on birth control years prior to that, and the birth control that I had chosen to use was feeding my body with concentrated doses of synthetic estrogen. So all that to say, when I learned that the things that I was putting on my body were actually hindering my ability to conceive and they were contributing to the infertility, I felt such shame. I felt such guilt. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody tell me? And ultimately I was responsible for that. And so anyways, I wasn't expecting to get emotional. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right. So I wanted the cheap stuff as long as I thought that it worked. Little did I know that I was ultimately wrecking my health and affecting my fertility. These toxins, typically fragrances, synthetic fragrances, have what's called phthalates. It's hard to pronounce a lot of the words, but the most common form of synthetic fragrance, the chemical is a phthalate. And those are also, they're known to, like I said, be hormone disruptors. They're known to affect male and female fertility. That's a big deal, okay? It is a big deal. So, I wish I'd known then what I know now. And so here's what I want to finish with, is that your skin is not wallpaper, okay? You need to engrave that over your forehead. You need to know that your skin is not wallpaper. Actually, 60 to 70% of what you apply topically or what you spray on your body, 60 to 70% is absorbed into your bloodstream. It's absorbed into your lymphatic system. So all that stuff travels through your body and it affects the rest of your organs. Now, it may manifest in maybe perhaps minor nuances like headaches, which I don't know that that's minor, but allergies, headaches, whatever, these different things. Or it could actually manifest like it did in my body in you're infertile. You're medically barren. Okay, this could be a big deal. This could be neurotoxins. Or now you have brain cancer. Now you have, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but we got to think about these things. If they're being transmitted into your bloodstream and your lymphatic system, that is a big deal. That is a huge wake-up call. And you're responsible for what you know. So if you didn't know this before, you know this now. And I urge you, as somebody who suffered the effects, the negative consequences of these chemicals, of these toxins, to take better care of your body. Be a good steward of your body. Our skin is our largest organ. It is a living, breathing organ. It is a porous organ. Like I said, what you put on your body goes into your bloodstream. And you might be thinking, what happens to the other, 30%? Well, that may not go into your bloodstream, into your lymphatic system, but it's going to directly affect your skin, the condition of your skin. Hence, where you continue to have flaky, dry, cracked, breakout prone, problematic, lackluster skin, because you're just feeding your skin all these horrible toxins. Yes, our skin is a living, breathing organ. It's a porous organ. Do not forget what you apply to it goes into your system. And ultimately, it is going to affect your overall health. So for those reasons, I just, I just feel so passionate about this. I urge you to pay attention to what you're applying to your body. Don't buy into the labels. Don't believe what they tell you on the front label. You know, oh, it's got pretty flowers and leaves, and they say that it's natural, and they claim, oh, look, it's got beeswax and it's got whatever. Like, no, turn the label around. The label is very telling. And just for the purpose of today's topic, synthetic fragrances, look for things like fragrance, perfume, even natural fragrance. That is your code word for approximately 100 hidden chemicals and toxins. So, you know, at MIG, we have incredible products that are truly pure, that are actually going to nourish your body, that are going to feed your body the things that it needs. It's not going to disrupt your hormones. And that's one of the reasons that I fell in love with this brand and this company, that I can feel good about applying that, not only just to my skin, but to my child's skin, that it's safe, it's truly pure, like better than USDA organic. You can eat it and you don't have to call poison control. It's pure, it's clean, it's safe, it's all natural, it's good for you, and it works. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this was helpful to you. Ultimately, my desire for you is that you would walk away from this empowered with information so that you can ultimately make educated decisions when you shop for your self-care products. So have an amazing day, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. I will go back through the comments. I didn't want to stop and read them along the way because I can, you know, rabbit trail, squirrel. So I'll go back through the comments. If there's any questions, I will answer them. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you have any questions about my journey, if you know anybody who's struggling with infertility, I would love to encourage them and pray for them. Okay, bye guys. Have a wonderful day.